Chocobo Racing is one of those seemingly simple things to fill your time with in Final Fantasy XIV, but reality of it is that it's an overly complicated rabbit hole that takes months of commitment if you're going to breed your own Chocobo. You're in luck though, as this guide will bother you with none of that. What you'll find in this video is a number of simple tips and tricks for someone just getting started with racing with any kind of Chocobo that may not be fully bred, or someone who's looking to make some additional MGP, especially during the Make It Rain event. If you're somewhat clueless and intimidated by all the information out there, this guide is bound to put you at ease and at an advantage when it comes to Chocobo racing. My name is Ivona from momsden.com, and if this is your first time on my channel, subbing is a good idea. I make simple FF14 guides that'll answer some of your questions in no time and give you some quick in-game wins. I also live stream here on the channel and on Twitch, so if you're a fan of simple guides, awesome communities, in-game and other highlights, I'll see you around. As you're racing and going through different tracks, you'll encounter different panels on the ground you can run through. Blue grants you sprint, purple grants heavy, green restores 10% of your stamina, and red takes away around 10% of your stamina, so you only want to be running through blue and green and avoid the rest. What I really want to talk about is the Chocobo abilities. For example, if you've ever wondered what Cunning does as an ability, and from my experience its flavor text is a bit misleading, I'd like to get into that. In essence, Cunning enhances your Chocobo's ability to run in bad terrain, like water, quicksand, swamps, and such. Increasing it will help you change lanes more easily and take turns without slowing down, especially in those bad terrains. When it comes to other abilities, they're more self-explanatory. Max speed simply affects how fast your Chocobo can go. Acceleration is how fast it takes your bird to go from minimum speed to max speed. Endurance is how long it takes to enter lathered state while running, and stamina is the maximum stamina pool your Chocobo has. When you push your Chocobo to sprint for too long, the Chocobo will become lathered. This burns stamina faster, so obviously you want to avoid this. When your bird becomes lathered, simply release the sprint button and let them rest for a little bit. However, there does seem to be a cooldown time you need to wait before successfully sprinting again, or else you'll pop right back into the lathered state again. So be aware of this if you're trying to rest your bird. Also, when it comes to stamina, it's not always going to pan out, but always aim to finish a race with as close to zero remaining stamina as you can be. Think of stamina as your resource and not something you always need to have. You want to use it appropriately, not wasting it all near the start, but not hoarding it for no purpose either. Use it in spurts, and of course use as much as necessary if your opponents are getting ahead. If you don't tap into stamina at all, the items and enhancements you obtain along the way will be worthless anyway. It's just a food for thought. When it comes to the negative effects in racing, I'd like to go over them too. Heavy slows down your bird. Frenzy makes it run in full sprint and increases your stamina drain. Silenced renders you unable to use any active Chocobo abilities. Distracted makes the Chocobo unable to use any actions. And lamed or exhausted drops Chocobo to minimum speed and the bird is unable to accelerate. Not only does lame knock out around 20% of your Chocobo's stamina and make you act like you're out of stamina for 6 seconds, but if you try to use an item to get out of it, it wastes the item, so try not to have it happen. As you're racing, you'll have the opportunity to use some items, and I'd like to go over what they actually do so that you know when to use them. Gravi Ball causes a 5-second heavy debuff to the Chocobo in front of you. If you're in first place though, it will obviously have no effect. Bacchus Water causes 15 seconds frenzy to the racer in front of you. If you're in first place, it will also have no effect, and honestly it's not as useful of an item as you might think. Briar Caltrop creates a field of briars around you that deals up to 20% stamina damage to anyone caught in the area of effect. Choco Meteor causes 20% stamina damage and 6 seconds lamed to every Chocobo in front of you. Choco Potions restore 10% stamina. Stamina Tablet means that the Chocobo becomes immune to any stamina drain or damage for about 10 seconds, and this includes stamina drain from sprinting. If your Chocobo is already at 0% though, the item will have very little effect. Sprint Shoes mean that the Chocobo enters the sprint stage. While sprinting, you'll achieve higher than max speed and also suffer no stamina drain temporarily. Choco Ether restores the use of your active ability, so you can take advantage of it again. If you have no active ability or it hasn't been used yet, the item will be wasted. If you have 2 active abilities and both have been used, only one will be restored. Hero Tonic increases all stats and your bird will become immune to all enfeebling effects for 15 seconds. Spiderweb renders the chocobo running behind you unable to use any items at all. Stamina Swapper switches your chocobo stamina with the stamina of a forerunning chocobo, but only if they have more stamina than you. A very important item to further discuss is the Briar Caltrop. Avoid getting hit by Briar Caltrop at all costs. Briar appears as a circular wall of thorns, and please move away from it ASAP when you see it. Don't get all cocky and try to trade Briar Caltrops with another player, because even if you sap their stamina, they will sap yours as well. Unaffected players will easily overtake both of you, and you will definitely lose the race. Also, we need to talk a little bit more about the Stamina Tablet. You now know that Stamina Tablet makes you not lose stamina for accelerating. What you may not know is that it also prevents all other forms of stamina loss, including from Briars. If you're neck and neck with other players and an upcoming box is going to give someone other than you a Briar, save your tablet for when I pop it on you, because they will, and the same applies with meteors, as those just wreak unimaginable havoc. You may be aware of this already, but as you approach an item box, it'll tell you what it's going to give in what order. Make sure to take advantage of this information. Get the items you want, and pay attention to the items other players near you are getting. Focus on trying to get the items that benefit you, rather than items that hurt your opponents, with the Briar being the obvious notable exception. If you've got a first place position, use it to control the flow and the economy of the items. That being said, don't give the second place player an item that's going to help them catch up to you. For example, if you're neck and neck with second place, don't take an item box that has a Briar in the second slot, as your opponent will get it for themselves, unless the first slot is something that'll let you deal with that Briar, like a stamina tablet. Alright, so you're on the racing track and you're wondering how much you should be moving left and right. When you're in a race, you should be aware that the track is made of actual invisible lanes, and pressing left and right will feel weird and unresponsive if you aren't aware of this. Similarly to how it is in traffic, if an opponent's chocobo is in your lane, you can't just ride through them and come out first, as you actually have to overtake them from a different lane. That being said, pay attention to the collision between chocobos in Chocobo Racing. If you've got a speed boost, don't boost right into the ass of the chocobo in front of you, because if you do, that's gonna hurt your speed boost pretty hard. Similarly, if someone is out of stamina or gets grab-a-balled, don't hang out behind them, as you won't be able to make any progress either. Also, if you're right next to another chocobo, you're not going to be able to strafe to the other side of them unless you pass them or they pass you, so plan accordingly. Steering your chocobo is one of the most unnatural sensations you can experience in FF14. When it comes to this, my advice is to give it time and put practice into it, as mastering this particular skill can get you far. Something that's clear to anyone who's ever run cross-country, but maybe not to the entire FF14 population, is that when you're turning, you should be moving to the inside of the lanes, as the radius is shorter and there's less distance to cover. However, the turns will feel more sharp, so it's something to practice and get used to. When I say avoid bad stuff on the floor, it may sound obvious, but more than that, you should be observant and learn where the bad stuff is on your maps. Try to attune yourself with the movements of the track passengers and practice predicting where they'll be when you're passing by. Some of the enemy hazards, which are only encountered at higher ranks, can be jumped over. This is faster than steering your chocobo all the way around them. The smaller ones can be jumped over, but the larger ones not really. Chocobo abilities, even though we could get much deeper into it, are still something I want to touch on in a very casual way. If you don't want to bother with all the chocobo breeding stuff, but you still want to make it easier to get your weekly wins and more NGP, I would recommend removing whatever random skill your chocobo has, and then buying a training manual for either a Choco Cure or a Choco Dash. Either skill will help a lot when you're racing, especially if you're a beginner and you're not looking to get yourself deeper into this. It's highly recommended that between the chocobo ranks 1 and 20, you use the ability Dressage, as it will help you level your chocobo more easily if that's what you want. You can also feed your chocobo in order to increase its stats, but I haven't found that to be necessary unless you're serious about racing. If you are into racing and breeding, remember that the challenge races, which unlock based on your chocobo's rating, are worth big amounts of MGP and are great to do during Make It Rain month if you haven't completed them already. This is a one-time thing and it will require you to spend quite a bit of time breeding and adapting your chocobo, but you can gain so much MGP if you go through all the challenges, I'd almost say it's worth it. Weather is also worth mentioning when it comes to racing. There are several flavor text descriptors like sunshine and clear skies that you'll encounter. Racing chocobos have weather preferences, so while there is no real way to choose the conditions you're getting yourself into at the start of a random race, be ready to either thrive or suffer based on the weather. The difference isn't that huge, but it is something to at least consider if you've got all the other basics covered. Obviously, when it comes to chocobo racing, there's a lot more to cover, as it is a form of endgame for a number of people. But the purpose of this guide was to give you some simple tips you can use to instantly win more races. If you'd like an additional, more comprehensive guide on chocobo breeding and some advanced strategies for beating the challenges or particular tracks, let me know in the comments and I'll get to work. Oh, and if you haven't subbed to the channel yet, do it now, as there's a new video every day that you won't want to miss. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so here as a YouTube channel member or over on Patreon. And if this guide was useful to you and you'd like to leave a tip, you can do so through YouTube things just under this video. Thanks to everyone who's keeping the content going, especially our alphas like Kathy Spear on YouTube memberships, as well as Andyman and Elijah Baker over on Patreon. Have fun racing and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.